Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday, and welcome to the Henry Schein Dental Academy webinar series. My name is Adam, marketing specialist, and I'll be your moderator. Today, we're welcoming back Carrie Webber as she will share how to build 5-star patient experiences in your dental practice. Carrie is the Chief Communications Officer for Jameson Dental Coaching and Dental Marketing. Before we get started, we have a few reminders. At any point during the webinar, we do encourage your participation. Please type any questions you have into the Q&A section of your control panel, and we'll answer them live at the end of the webinar. Henry Schein is not offering CE credit for viewing or attending this presentation live or on demand. And this webinar is sponsored by Henry Schein's Dental Business Institute, as well as Jameson Dental. Carrie, the floor is yours.
Adam, thank you so much, and welcome everyone. Hey, thank you for joining me on a Monday. Wow, I am just honored that you would, after coming off or finishing up a Monday, back to work, you're here tuning in and leaning in and learning with me. I'm certainly grateful for the privilege of your time. As Adam said, I am with Jameson. I am not only the Chief Communications Officer, but I'm alongside with my husband. I'm the owner of the company. And we help dentists and teams across the country, helping them become more productive, more profitable, and ultimately more fulfilled in their practicing lives through business and hygiene coaching, as well as dental marketing services. And our business has been working with practices for over 30 years. It was founded by my parents, Doctors John and Kathy Jameson. And in their work, my father is a retired dentist. So all of the foundations that we continue to build upon today come from in the trenches of dental practices, helping patients say yes to dental treatment, helping create the kind of practice that you've always wanted. And I consider it a great privilege to continue their legacy alongside my husband, but not only carrying on forward their legacy, but also evolving the business as what I say, map makers and explorers, helping us continue to evolve what we provide in dental practices across the country based upon how our profession is evolving. And so this evening, I am thrilled to be sharing a topic that's really near and dear to my heart, really building that 5-star patient experience. I hope that all of you would agree with me that yes, while what we do in our professional lives is dentistry, that clinical care, helping patients become healthy and stay healthy for a lifetime. Yes, that is the what that we do. But we do that through relationships. Wouldn't you agree that relationships is such a big part of the work that you do to help you have a healthy business, to help you to grow and to thrive? So the question may always be, how do we build those relationships with our patients more effectively? How do we attract more of the right types of patients? How do we help more patients say yes to the treatment they want and need, stay active in our practice? That all happens through our efforts that we put forth in their overall experience in our practices. So I'd love to know, I know Adam said if you have specific questions for me this evening to put those in the Q&A section of the webinar, but I'd love to hear from you in the chat. I've actually opened up the chat window so that I can see myself, the conversations that, or what you may be sharing. So I'd love to hear from you, just saying to myself and to the Schein team, where are you from? Where are you tuning in from? Where are you listening or watching this webinar this evening? I'd love for you to share in the chat where you're from so that I can give you a good hearty welcome. I'm from Oklahoma City, so I'm saying hello to you from Oklahoma. Thanks for joining us from Boston, from Indianapolis, from Maryland, Michigan, San Francisco. Wow, that's so great. From Brooklyn, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. And Brooklyn, all you East Coasters are joining me well into your Monday evening. So thank you so much for being here. Virginia, Connecticut, St. Louis, Scottsdale. We really are all across the country. New Jersey, welcome. Thank you guys for being with me this evening. Georgia, another OKC friend. So I love it. I love that we're all here together. So let's begin. What I want you to start thinking about this evening is we're going to talk about the patient experience in a couple of ways. Number one, that overall experience that you're bringing to every patient's experience. A lot of times when I'm teaching this, I talk about it specifically from the new patient experience perspective. But I want us to really take it a little bit further and to remember that a lot of opportunity for growth for you happens with the patients that you already have in your practice. Would you agree with me on that? And what we want to do is remember, we don't want to, while we do want to wow those new patients with an amazing new patient experience. So I certainly don't want to dismiss that. We don't want to take our existing patients for granted, do we? So, if there's a ton of opportunity for us to grow our practices from within, not only through helping the patients we have in our patient family say yes to treatment, do more within the practice, or also refer, it's going to be important that we really turn up the heat, turn up the knob on the type of service and care that we're providing throughout their entire journey with us. So, I want you to start thinking about this is one of my most favorite questions to ask in a lot of aspects of how we all are running our businesses, is where in the patient experience, where in the building of your practice from within, are you perhaps working intentionally where you have a plan, you've practiced those conversations, those verbal skills, you have a process in place? Where are you being intentional? And where are you perhaps being a little bit more accidental? The example I always give about accidental is if things just start to come apart at the seams and we're all just running around crazy, or your days feel chaotic, or there are a lot of questions throughout the day about who's doing what. If it feels like there's a lot of dropped balls in the patient's journey or experience with us, chances are there's a piece or more through your processes and your conversations and that overall patient experience that's more accidental than it is intentional. And so I want you to start thinking about that as I walk through some of the things that we study and that we have learned and we work with practices across the country on in their patient experience to see, oh, that's the place. That's what we don't do, or we don't do this consistently, or we're pretty accidental in this, and we could be more intentional. That may be where you find your takeaway from this evening's presentation. So let's talk about this evening what I would consider 4 of your customer service spotlights. I want to shine the light on these 4 areas and these 4 intentional efforts that this is focused in dentistry because we are all dental professionals this evening, but really this is business in general. And you'll see what I mean as we walk through this. This isn't exclusive to dentistry, but I want you to look at it from the dental lens for you and how you can incorporate this into your practices. So the 4 customer service spotlights, I want to start with raving fans. Now, what do I mean by raving fans? When you signed up for this webinar, you were probably saying, okay, she's going to teach me how to get more referrals, more reviews. So we're certainly going to touch on that. But first, we have to take it back even a little bit further and talk about what our intentional efforts are in creating what Kim Blanchard, the author of the book Raving Fans, calls the 3 Ds to raving fan service. Number 1 is that we have to decide. We have to be clear about our vision for what our practice is going to be known for, what kind of dentistry you're going to provide, what patient care in your mind looks like ideally. And then we pursue that vision. So you have to decide what raving fan service means to you in terms of a lot of times when we talk to people that are looking to incorporate more external marketing, or they want more new patients, or they want to increase case acceptance, or whatever the case may be. I talk about, well, where are you now? And what do you want? What's the end goal of this? What you want more of? What does that serve for you? What is the purpose? And what do you want it to look like in the end? So we have to really clarify for ourselves what that looks like for you. You have to decide what raving fan service is for you. And then we need to, the second D, discover. What do your patients want and need to be exceptionally pleased? So what do I mean by that? Quite frankly, when you think about patients in your practice right now, your raving fan patients, when I say that to you and people come to mind, do you know why they love you? Do you know why they chose you as their practice in the first place? Do you know why they stay with you? Do you know why they refer to you? If you don't know the answer, those are questions that I would encourage you to ask, because whatever our raving fans love about us, in my opinion, kind of want to do more of that, right? If there are things that also resonate with us as meaningful and in touch with our vision and our values as practitioners, I want to do more of that. That helps me decide what I need to do more of and what I need to do less of. So ask your patients, discover what they want and need to be exceptionally pleased. Brian Tracy talks about this a little bit when he talks about time management. What do we need to start? What do we need to stop? What do we need to change? And we can't know that unless we're hearing the feedback that's most important to us to make those kinds of healthy decisions in terms of what that patient experience is now and what it's doing for you. Then, once we get clear and we discover what right is for us and for our patients, we need to deliver the third D, what is expected, plus a little bit more every single time. It's that little bit more that makes it raving fan service. So it's not just that you get to deliver average and that's great. Nobody, I heard a great quote. I can't recall who said it, but they said that nobody raves about average, right? Nobody raves about average. So what we have to do is determine and discover what right looks like for us and for our patients and deliver even more than what's expected. That is the wow experience that brings more and more of the right kind of new patients for you to your practice. So we at Jameson talk about the ideal patient a lot. We talk about it from a marketing perspective. We talk about it from a practice builder perspective. And you may have thought that when we talk about the ideal patient, we're going to talk about demographics or whatever the case may be. But it's really these behaviors that we're trying to attract more of to you. When you look at this list, that they schedule their appointments, they keep their appointments, they say yes to treatment, they complete the treatment, they pay for treatment, they stay active in the practice, and ding, 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 they refer, right? I'm curious, when we were talking about the discover, what your patients want to be exceptionally pleased, and you were thinking about who raving fans were in your practice today, do they do these things? Often when I ask practices to give me some descriptors of what raving fans do in their practices, they don't just say these, and they actually do say these specifically, but they also say things like, they're nice. They're nice to us. They see value in what we do. They listen. They respect our opinion. They want to hear, and they trust us. They trust what we bring to the table in their health and in their well-being. So we want to create, again, more of this coming to your door. And the best way to do that, everyone, is by referrals. Would you agree? Getting more referrals is going to help us. So how do we get that raving fan service? How do we get more patients so exceptionally pleased and connected to us that they want to refer? Well, Horst Schulze, who is the former COO and president of the Ritz-Carlton Group, he started the first 50 plus Ritz-Carltons around the world, says this based upon their studies. The people you serve want three things. They want a service with no defects. So what does that mean for you? Well, it's not just the clinical care, which, you've got to be great clinicians and care providers, but it's also in how that is delivered to them. So remember those dropped balls we were talking about earlier? Every time a ball is dropped, or I like to even use the analogy of a baton pass in relay races in track and field, right? Every time a baton is dropped, we have a break in trust or a break in perception of the value of the care. And so we want to do as much as possible to create an experience that's defect-free. Now, does that mean that you are expected to be perfect? No, nobody's perfect. Everybody has a day, right? Everybody has a slip up here and there, but we want consistency in the pursuit of excellence. So when you start thinking about your experience from top to bottom, where is there excellence being consistently delivered as a team? And where are we dropping the baton? So we want to shore that up and have as consistently as possible a service with no defects. They also find that people want timeliness. So being seen on time, being seen as quickly as possible. Those of you that are providing services that are seeing them for fewer appointments because you do all of these things from a service standpoint to make it more convenient for them. That's important from the perspective of the patient, of the consumer. That's what they're looking for. And then they want the person with whom they're dealing with to be nice to them. And I know these sound so simple, but hey, this is coming from the Ritz-Carlton. And if you're like me, boy, when I think of the Ritz, I think, wow, I think fancy. And I think high customer service, and that they put that as a priority. And we know that they do because they do studies on customer service all the time. In fact, Mr. Schultz wrote a book that I highly recommend called Excellence Wins. So it's Excellence Wins by Horst Schultz, and it is an amazing book on Ritz-Carlton service. So if you're looking to learn and explore, become a student of customer service for your practice and the patient experience, I highly recommend that book. So the question for you when it comes to getting clear on your vision, discovering what your patients want and need to be exceptionally pleased, and then delivering that, plus a little bit more, is this question for you in terms of your vision for your ideal practice and your ideal patient experience. What does right look like? When you have a great day, when your patients are having great appointments and they're happy and you're happy and everything's going well, how does that feel? How does that feel to you? And how do you perceive that feeling to the patient? And then when you think about that, what are you doing as a team for it to feel that right? What are the things you're doing to make it go that well? Then when it doesn't go so great, when we're dropping all of the batons, how does that make us feel? How does that make our patients feel? And what is happening to make us run into so many roadblocks along that patient experience? Those are the moments of awareness that you can gain a great deal of knowledge on for yourself when it comes to where do I need to focus my attention. In the end, I want you to start working and striving toward what right looks like for you, so that we can create those raving fans that are bringing you more referrals and reviews. Because in the end, I want 60 to 70% of your new patient base coming by way of referral. So the question for you is that the number that you're hitting right now? I think that's great. If you are, kudos to you. If you're not, don't even bother with external until you get the internal right, because these are your patients that are going to be more and more of the right types of patients for you and what right looks like. So building referrals and reviews. Here are some real simple things that I want to make sure that you're tapping into and making the most of consistently. Number one, are you asking? I think this, interestingly, is the biggest roadblock for practices to get their goal number of referrals or reviews every month, because we don't consistently ask. Now, there's a lot of reasons why we don't ask. We get busy. It's not part of our habit. We don't feel comfortable with it. It seems awkward. It's weird to ask people. Well, you know what's not going to happen if you don't ask? You're not going to get referrals or reviews. So make sure you start practicing together how to ask. I have a teammate. She's a hygienist. She's an advisor. She's still practicing hygiene to this day. And this was a hard piece for her to ask for referrals. And she would have to practice it. She said she'd write it on a sticky note, what she wanted to say. And she would stick it on her steering wheel and practice it going to work every morning until it became comfortable for her and a part of her vocabulary that was a habit in her conversations with patients. Utilizing patient communication software is key. In my opinion, this is something big that came out of COVID, and that we already knew how our patients were behaving, right? We already knew they prefer texting more and more. We already know this about them. So utilizing these tools, maximizing your tools that you have on hand to help you do this work, to do the heavy lifting with you, is key. review generation services. So what I mean by that is more than likely now your patient communication softwares do this for you. The texts to review, to the reviews, the texts to send referrals, whatever, those email messages, use them. But then make sure within the practice, we are talking about it. You're going to be receiving a text that asks for reviews. Your review really helps us meet more people in the community that are like you and that would love to have us as a dental home. And we'd really appreciate your completing that review for us. Thank you in advance. Letting them know it's coming, telling them what we want them to do. If we get more comfortable and in the habits of talking about it and asking, I'm telling you, you're going to see an uptick in those efforts. Having internal signage in your practice so that when people are sitting there in the chair, they're reading this and they're seeing, you're giving them the tools to talk about you. Using social media is also key. And then having intentional daily huddles where we're talking about and choreographing our day. Who's going to speak to whom about, who's going to ask this person for referrals? Who's going to ask this person for reviews? So that you're sharing the load of that responsibility as a team and everyone's getting comfortable with it and it becomes a part of your daily processes. And that leads us to having intentional team verbal skills. Most of the time, it's because we're not comfortable to ask. And that's where we get hung up in building up referrals and reviews. So we have to work on that. Now, pre-COVID, we would be telling you to give them a couple of business cards and thank them for their business and ask them if they have friends or family and that we'd love to have them a part of their as a part of our patient family as well. So by all means, still do that in a different way. But COVID has really uplifted this touch-free service that actually is a heightened perception and level of customer service. So this is where you can really take those text to refer, text to review, emails to send referrals, and all of those kinds of digital encouragements in replacement of that. But it doesn't replace the verbal skills. We have to still have the verbal skills and let them know what to expect and ask them what we want them to do with it. So Mrs. Jones, thank you so much for being with us today. We always love to see you. I'm going to be sending you a text in just a few moments that asks for a review. It would mean so much to us if you could complete that, if you've had a great experience here, so that we can help more people in our community learn more about our practice. So thanks in advance for completing that. Practicing those verbal skills, whatever they may be, so that you're not just saying, because what I hear a lot from practices is, yeah, we use it, we send it out, but I mean, not very many people complete it. I said, because we're stopping short in the process. It doesn't eliminate that we need to ask. We are a relationship organization. And so we still have to connect with that patient and give them the tools to talk about us and tell them what we need. Don't be afraid of this. Practice this as a team, because it's the verbal skills that are going to be key for you in strengthening your ability for consistent referrals and reviews. And you can choose, a lot of times those door openers happen with patients, right? They say, oh, I just love you guys. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, it's so good to see you. When they open that door for you, that's the moment. That's the moment we can say, oh, it's so great to see you too, Mrs. Jones. We would love to have more patients just like you. You make us so happy. If you have any friends or family that are looking for a dental home, we are accepting new patients, and we would love it if you would send them our way. And become more comfortable in how you say that. I struggled with that too, just, full transparency. I used to struggle with that too. And I think, if I ask people to follow us on our podcast, if I ask them to tell people about us, how awkward is that? Does that sound like I'm desperate? And then I finally started saying, well, I do want more people to listen to the podcast. And if the people that already like it have friends, maybe they would like it too. So what's the worst thing that could happen? That you don't invite anybody to the podcast. So I just figured I need to get over my own self, get over yourself. Just ask, what's the worst that can happen? So getting over our own selves and getting out of our own way and getting our mindset in a place where we're practiced, we're comfortable, and we're confident to ask is going to be key. I'm telling you, The thing that's getting in your way right now is your own inconsistency in asking. I would put money on it if I was a better. I would put money on it. So verbal skills leads us into the next spotlight, which is effective communication. Effective communication is key, really, in all aspects of your practice, in building the relationship with your patients and helping them say yes to treatment and helping them schedule their first appointment. I mean, from how you answer the telephone to how you present treatment to how you're asking for commitments, how you're educating the patients, it's all communication, everyone. This is where we build in what we consider pillars of what we call the patient practice partnership. I'm actually going to be doing a case presentation webinar for Henry Schein on that topic in the months to come. So I'm looking forward to diving into that with all of you. I hope that you'll join me. But it's building trust, value, a sense of need, all the way through to loyalty, that patient loyalty. How we, as each and every member of the team, communicate really makes or breaks that sense of loyalty that a patient has. That's why at the very beginning I was talking about that we don't want to take our existing patients for granted. Number one, because there's such a great deal of opportunity within your practice already of dentistry that's waiting to be done, was diagnosed and hasn't been completed. But number two, just because they've been with you for several years doesn't mean that if we start to take them for granted and don't deliver everything that's expected, plus a little bit more in their experience, that they're not going to just go look somewhere else. It happens all the time. In fact, you may be thinking about a patient that you loved that you're probably wondering, man, I wonder what happened to Carrie Webber. Man, maybe she left because we didn't deliver. We didn't take care of her in the exceptional way that she had been used to at the very beginning. Instead of bringing our A game, we were bringing our C game. And that's what happens. And, yes, you are a healthcare provider. You're also a business, and they have choice. Just like you have a choice to work on your communication skills, they have a choice to go somewhere else. So in terms of the patient experience, what are some key communication skills that we need to always be working on? People, it's listening. One of the big pieces is what we call active listening, where you are leaning in, listening, and fully engaged with that patient, listening to what they're telling you. And then we are feeding it back to them to make sure the message sent is message received. So, Mrs. Jones, it sounds like you are looking to improve your smile. You're wanting it to be a little bit whiter, and some of those teeth in the back that have been giving you some problems, you'd like to get yourself to a state of health and really improve your smile altogether because we were getting ready for your granddaughter's wedding. Is that what I'm hearing? Yes. Okay, great. So if we were able to explore ways that we could help you have a healthier, not only that healthier smile, but a wider, brighter smile, that's something you're interested in exploring today? Yes. Okay, great. So when I'm feeding back to her what she's telling me, what her goals are, I can incorporate those goals into her entire experience again and again. So practicing listening, this is something you can do as a team. Just pair up in twos or threes, one person being the patient, one person being the team member, and go through scenarios that you face on a day-to-day basis, conversations with your patients that you can improve upon. Give each other feedback, work on it together, become a team that's coachable. Be in a safe place where you can help each other be better. So what's your intention? What's your intention as a team? What's your intention as a teammate? What's your intention as a leader? What's your intention with your relationships with your patients? If those intentions are good, let's create a space to help all of us be better and become a coachable team that can role play and practice with each other. Body language. Here's a big one that we see time and time again. We are firm believers in being eye to eye and knee to knee with patients in our conversations with them as often as possible, because we want them to feel like they're on equal footing with us. Anxiety is a real thing in dental practices, isn't it? And so we don't want them laying on their backs and being seeming authoritative and like leaning over them and hounding them and putting fear into the conversation. We want them to feel safe and comfortable and partnered with us. So eye to eye, knee to knee, leaning in and listening and having these conversations where you matter, you're heard, and I'm listening. You think that's going to take a long time, but actually it's not. The same amount of time you're spending right now communicating, if you do it sitting down, facing that patient just like this, eye to eye and knee to knee, their perception is going to be that you're with them even longer. But you're actually going to be with them the exact same amount of time you would have been if you were using any other type of body language. So this is how people perceive a message the most, the body language. So we need to work on that and heighten our awareness of where are we? Are we standing? Are we leaning? Are we crossing our arms? Do we have our backs to the patients when we're talking to them? And find those spots and those places and adjust accordingly where you're facing them and making eye contact and eye to eye, knee to knee. Value building words. I call these power words. Think about the words that you may be saying in conversations with patients that are almost dismissive in nature. Kind of, just, sort of, maybe. All of these words are diminishing the value of whatever you're trying to communicate to them. We need to stop thinking what we call retail, which is like the cost, schedule, maybe, just, kinda, and start thinking service-oriented words. Heighten them up, heighten your vocabulary, reserve, a change in appointment, an opportunity, and remove all of those diminishing words like just or kind of. Those are words that pop in when we may be uncomfortable in conversations or a little unsure. They're fillers, but they're also diminishing fillers. So we need to start becoming more and more aware. I'm telling you, I'm just going to say these words. And tomorrow, when you're talking to patients, you're going to catch yourself saying them. Kind of, just, maybe, like. All of those words, you're now going to hear yourself saying them. And I hope that you will, look, I just said, but I hope that you will start to become more aware and work on how you're communicating and building value in the words that you say. Education. This is a big one in terms of, are you educating the patient all along the way about what you're doing with them that day, what you're doing in the process of their appointment, what has been provided that day, what they can expect in the next appointment. Educate, educate, educate. Pulling up photography and showing them what's happening in their mouth at that moment when you're diagnosing treatment, educating them on what's happening, showing befores and afters, and showing them what's possible to get them to a state of health. I often feel when we get busy, we take the education piece out, perhaps because we feel like, they already know what I'm doing. Assumption is the lowest form of communication. So if you're assuming that your patients know what you're doing throughout the appointment, you're possibly putting yourself at risk of assuming wrong. And you're losing an opportunity to build the value of the experience in education. My doctor, my dentist that I go to is a doctor here in Oklahoma City, and she and her whole team have worked very, very, very hard to practice what we preach to them. And they educate me and they sit with me eye to eye, knee to knee, telling me about what they're going to be doing. Even when they're sitting behind me, they're telling me what they're doing. So I'm not wondering what's happening. They never assume. They tell me when they're doing every little step in the appointment. And you know what? I appreciate it. I am so grateful that they are not assuming and they're telling me what's happening and what I can expect. You have a huge opportunity in the patient experience to build up the educational aspect. Now, becoming aware of what we're assuming, or if you feel like repetition is happening to the point that you're driving the patients bananas, in my opinion, you can never over communicate. And finally, in the communication phase, your awareness of what that conversation is what's happening with the patient in your conversations. Have you ever heard that statement? Read the room, people. Just read the room. Read the room, Carrie. You got to read the room and make sure that you're communicating in the right way to this person. That's a big piece in studying personality styles, behavioral styles, having an awareness of how different personalities or behaviors in people that are different from you, how we may be coming across to them and trying to meet them where they are. Having that heightened sense of awareness. It's, people talk about it all the time in terms of emotional intelligence. But to me, it's an awareness of what's happening right now in this patient's perception of their experience with me. How can I elevate this experience for them? How can I help? And how can I communicate this more effectively, or meet them more where they are, versus where I am? A big thing that I want you to start thinking about is it's not about you, it's about them. So thinking about it from the lens of the patient. When you think about your patient's experience, walk through the whole shebang. And if you were a patient in your practice being communicated to in the way that you all are communicating to your patients or leading them through their experience, would you be pleased? Would you be exceptionally pleased? Would you feel that you were delivered everything that was expected plus a little bit more? The answer is yes. Good for you. Celebrate that together, something worthy of celebration. If the answer is no in any aspect of the experience, hey, that's where you need to do some work. So get together, create a plan, work on that as a team, shore up those places, those cracks in that process, and do better. We all are constantly working on being better. No one's ever finished. No one's ever perfect. I'm working on this at the same time that you guys are working on this. We do customer service training with our team all the time. My team would tell you lots of it, because it's an important piece of what we deliver to our customers, to our clients every day. Another spotlight in customer service is exceptional telephone skills. Remember Mr. Schultze of the Ritz, in some of their studies, they have found that the customer, the guest for them, the patients for you, are setting expectations, and their perception of their experience, whether it's going to be good or bad, whether they're going to schedule an appointment or not, whether they're going to stay active in your practice or not, within the first 5 to 8 seconds of the first interaction with the first person they come into contact with your team. So boy, if that doesn't scream telephone, I don't know what does. I hear this a lot, that people say, well, I can hear things happening on the telephone, but I'm in the room taking care of a patient. I can't do anything about it. Well, no, you can't do anything about it right then, but are you prioritizing time to work as a team on those items you identify in those moments? We could do that better. If we're just course correcting like ships passing through the straits of time, I don't even know what I'm saying, but if we are just saying, like in the hallway, say, oh, hey, what happened with Mrs. Jones on the phone? I think we could do that a little bit better. No, we have to work as a team on what right looks like in terms of telephone, practice with each other. Set your teammates up to be successful by helping them develop the tools and skills to be better at that conversation you overheard the next time. When we don't set clear expectations, and then when we don't train up or give them the opportunities to develop those skills, how are we supposed to see a different result? Not doing anything, no change, but expecting things to change really is not a healthy approach to improving your business. So elevated verbal skills, here are the benefits. It increases trust, understanding, and satisfaction, decreases anxiety, confusion, and frustration, the cancellations and no-shows, and it strengthens your efficiency and consistency in the schedule. When we become more practiced at how to communicate and using, remember, those power words and how we can say things more effectively, it doesn't take tons and tons of time, because I think that's a big obstacle for all of you. You're so busy, we don't have time to deliver exceptional service. We don't have the time to build value through our verbal skills. But when we get better at it, it's not necessarily the quantity of the words you're saying, it's the quality of the words you're saying. And that takes practice. So in the end, in that fourth spotlight is the leveled up customer service. This was an interesting survey that came out of COVID by Accenture at the end of 2020. This is from the hospital, the physician standpoint, but I think it's pretty relevant for us in terms of what the perception by patients were about their care. And 9 out of 10 thought that their care from their physician was as good or better than before COVID. They felt like they were having a more personalized response, a better response from their doctors, a quicker response from the practices. They were getting more convenient access through new communication channels. And I'm sure this is giving you some PTSD from the last year because you were stepping up to the plate to communicate to the patients in a different way. Well, guess what? They liked it. And so, what could we keep? What could be the lesson learned from 2020? Well, maybe it is doing everything that's expected plus a little bit more is kind of nice in the eyes of our patients. And it makes them want to stay and be loyal to this practice and do more with us and refer more people. And maybe it's worth it. So all those touchless tools, all those things you started to get more competent with in your patient communication softwares, all of those verbal skills you worked on, it matters. And if you didn't, you may have felt it. And so what we want to do now is it's never too late to be better than where we were and to identify what we can improve for the sake of the patient experience, because it's really about them and helping them get what they want or need. Great customer service is how easy do we make it for the patients to receive what they want or need? Health Policy Institute with the ADA says year over year that these are the biggest obstacles to care for patients, cost being number one, no surprise there, fear and convenience. Remember the timeliness piece from our friends at the Ritz. We need to be aware that so much of this can be offset by how we care for the patients and how we develop our patient experience to meet them where they are. We find at Jameson that these are the 4 pillars, like I talked about, of the patient practice partnership. Because if patients walk out the door not staying in your practice, not accepting treatment, more than likely we've missed the mark on one or more of these areas. That they don't trust us, they don't see the need for it, they don't see the urgency or the hurry for it, they don't see the value in what you bring to their lives and to the table. And this is our job. This is what we need to do in that relationship column of the work we do with patients, is building that trust and that sense of need and urgency, and building value with our skills, with the tools we have available to help educate, motivate our patients to be active and activate in their care, but also so that they see the value in what you do. Build value, build value, build value. Perception is everything. These are strategies of customer service, how we communicate, our scheduling, how easy do we make it for the patients to get what they want or need, how we answer the telephone and communicate with them via the telephone, the overall patient experience, which we're talking about today, case presentation, the systems, the verbal skills, all of the tools we use in case presentation to elevate that experience, identifying the patient's goals and using those throughout their experience with us, staying connected, partnering with them, utilizing our own team meetings to continuously work on and improve our skills in customer service. And then the leadership that all of you, if you're the leaders of the practice, the leadership that you're showing in making this a core competency in your practice vision, excellence, 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 delivering excellence, and then some every single time. Those linkage, those connections are what I call pivotal touch points in the patient experience. You may want to take a screenshot of this and use this in a team meeting to evaluate where you do this well and where we might need help. Linkage communication, connecting one person to the next, the transitions, the handoffs. What I call the touch points. These are touch points. And yeah, there are more, but these are ones that I think are really pivotal in what are we doing? Are we building value and building trust and building on the pillars and the patient's perception, or are we diminishing them in each of these interactions? How we are answering the telephone and having those conversations, how we're scheduling, how we're confirming, how we're using our confirmation tools and staying in contact with the patients to build that ongoing value for their next scheduled appointment, how we check them in, how we greet them, how we seat them, how we walk them through the procedure and educate them throughout the procedure and communicate, how we communicate and present diagnosed treatment and educate them on that treatment, how we present in treatment presentations and walk them through acceptance to even making financial arrangements and scheduling that first appointment scheduling those next appointments when they're in the practice with us and building value for that ongoing care, how we walk them through the payment process, what kind of tools and resources and conveniences do we provide as a practice to make that easy for them to get what they want or need, checking them out and following up, staying connected with the patient even after they've left your doors. Synchrony Financial and Care Credit has discovered that patients can take up to 69 plus days to make a dental purchasing decision. So if we don't follow up with our patients after they leave our practice, we may be losing a huge opportunity in terms of building value. So my question for you is, what's your ideal patient process, and does everyone know? Does everyone on your team know what right looks like? And do they understand and embrace their role in that process? If you're like, well, I mean, I guess we do things the same way, but we've never really talked about it. That's very real. People have told me that before. You guys, this is it for you. This is creating that map almost. I mean, you can see this picture on the screen. It doesn't have to be like a robot, but when we have a playbook to follow, we can bring our creative selves and our gifts and our personalities to the table, but we don't mess things up. We are passing the baton and the relay in a very effective and efficient manner and helping to build value with every interaction, because each and every team member can make or break a patient relationship. So if we don't prioritize working on this as a team, getting clear and really writing it out almost like a procedure. What do we do first? What do we do second? What does that look like? When we do it well, what's happening? From the new patient phone call to walking them through their appointment to checking them out. What are best practices? Does everybody know what those are and understand the expectations and feel comfortable, competent, and confident in delivering? So a great exercise for you comes from an inspiration of a book, Broken Windows, Broken Business by Michael Levine. In the book, it's all about perception. And they even used a dental practice as an example, saying, if I walked into your dental practice and there was a stain on the carpet in the reception area, what might my perception be in my mind based upon seeing that stain? What else is dirty? Or this is dirty. And does that elevate or diminish my sense of value in your practice, which is a pillar, remember, value? Well, it diminishes it, doesn't it? And so we need to start looking at where are the broken windows, because in the book they talked about the broken windows are basically the perception of something is broken or there's no value in it. And we want to fix the broken windows so that we are consistently building value and delivering. Remember, everything that's expected plus what? Plus a little bit more. So what are the broken windows in your practice? I want you to look at your practice through the lens of a patient. Go as a team, walk through from beginning to end, have role play out the patient experience, practice it together, and make notes of everything from facility to our verbal skills, to the paperwork, if you're still doing that, or how easy it is to use the iPad or whatever the case may be, to when you sit in the chair, what the room looks like. Is there chipped paint on the walls? How are we delivering our verbal skills and having those conversations? How are we using our tools and technology in the practice? Are we as effective as we could be? All of those steps. And then determine from there what we need to do better, what we need to improve, and then strategize, make an action plan of what you're going to do first, second, third, fourth. If it's fixing something, a literal broken window, I talked to practice, did this exercise with the practice, and they literally had broken windows. They were by a golf course. And I was like, well, okay, step one is fix the actual literal broken windows. But figuring out what are your steps, if it's working on the verbal skills, if it's working on our telephone technique, if it's starting to use our communication tools in a different way, adding some conversation to different interactions or those touch points. Perhaps it's a touch point that we need to work on the handoff or the transition a little bit more effectively. Find it, prioritize it, and create a strategy of how you all are going to improve that together as a team. High performers in every field spend much more time practicing and upgrading their skills than low performers. So if your takeaway is, We haven't had a team meeting since we were shut down last May. Maybe that's what we need to prioritize, is get those team meetings going again and work on those topics, those systems, those processes that we need to work on. Maybe the first step is making sure everybody knows what our processes are. Have you hired some new team members in the last 12 months? Several of you have, I bet. Do they know what right looks like for you? Have we clearly communicated that? Likely the answer is no, because we're busy, right? We don't have time because we're not prioritizing that time. If you want things to be better and different, you have to spend time and invest the time working on your business, not just in it. I learned that from my dad. If you want some tools to help you in how you actualize, execute, and implement, getting those team meetings rolling, get an action plan in place of how to improve that patient experience, I want to invite you, if you may have already downloaded this from one of my previous webinars, but I want to invite any of you that haven't to take a picture of this with your phone, and it will direct you to a landing page where you can download a complimentary ebook that I wrote called Move the Needle, that gives some great tools, from goal setting sheets to how you can rate your practice on what Jameson considers integral systems, how you can lead yourself and your team through some problem solving to determine what you need to work on and what your first steps will be. You can also use the landing page directly that you see here if you don't want to use the QR code. But I invite you to download that complimentary as a gift from me to help you implement some positive change for your practice. If you're looking for tools to help you and your team level up your patient experience, that's actually a learning pathway on our online learning platform called Grow by Jameson. So I invite you to go visit grow.jamson.com and learn more about our online learning platform and how it could benefit you in your further development and ongoing refinement of your patient experience. If you have questions about it, we also have some great offers for Henry Schein customers for the Grow platform. So I encourage you to reach out to us at info@jamson.com to learn more about that. And then if you want to really take a deep dive and you want to see a change in your practice for the better and improve your systems, improve your verbal skills, work as a team to be better on the other side of 2021, I would love to have a complimentary discovery session with you. You can reach out to us and we can schedule that. And you would be having that conversation with me. We'll talk about your practice, your goals, what you hope to accomplish in seeking out support from a company like ours. And we can explore what right looks like in a supportive relationship together. I would look forward to that conversation. And with that, I want to thank you all once again for a great Monday kickoff for the week. The summer's right around the corner. There's no better time than now to make a commitment to work on the skills, the systems, and the processes that can help you create an experience for your patients that delivers everything that's expected, plus a little bit more, so that you can grow your patient family one raving fan at a time. And Adam, with that, I'm open to any questions that may have come during the hour.
Well, you did such a great job. We only have one question. So to those of you still out there, we do have a few minutes yet. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat or Q&A. The one we have so far is, which patient communication software would you recommend?
I think there are a lot of front runners in terms of those that really stepped up to the plate in COVID. So I would encourage you, number one, I'd reach out to your Henry Schein rep, because I know that Henry Schein One has some great communication tools. So I always say, what are you using now? And how can we use it better? And if your patient communication software doesn't accomplish what your goals are for it, then it's time to seek something out. But sometimes we don't even know what we want them to accomplish, if that makes any sense. So my first question is, what do you want your patient communication software to do for you? And then seek out the softwares that fit those goals. So Henry Schein One would be my first step, finding out from them what tools they have. I'm also a big fan of Weave and Revenue Well. And I think the reason I'm a fan of those is because of how much work they did during COVID for customers in terms of those touchless patient experiences. So talk to your Schein rep and find out, what do you already have and what maybe are you missing out on that you're already investing in? Let's start by maximizing what we already are investing in, right? And then take it from there. Any other questions for me? Some great feedback from those of you in the chat. So I really appreciate that, and I love all of your ideas that you were sharing. So remember, another question was some more examples of favorite power words. I'd be happy to answer that, Adam, if that's okay, and from the chat.
Go for it.
Okay. And so, what I said mostly in the presentation was about the diminishing words, but I want you to start thinking about, let's just use the patient checkout and let's use the telephone as some examples. When you think about, and something I want to encourage you to do is commit to becoming a student of service, customer service, meaning if you are a continuous student, you're going to become more aware when you're at a great business, when you're at a great hotel, when you're at a great restaurant, when you're somewhere outside of your general realm, what that kind of communication skill feels like and looks like. And you can adopt that into your practice. So things like schedule, I would say, let's reserve time. Instead of a cancellation, you have an opportunity. And you can see how that really elevates. And you may say, that sounds, everybody knows it's a cancellation. Well, okay. Well, you know what? Chick-fil-A sells chicken sandwiches and they still say my pleasure. So, it's not necessarily what we know they know. It's how we're building value of this is who we are. And remember, you can also think about this. I would encourage you, even as a clinical team, to think about if we're wanting to help patients understand and see the need and urgency, how are we explaining diagnosed treatment to them? Are we kind of brushing it aside or diminishing even that? Or are we explaining it in a way where they really can feel it within that this is disease? This is something that is urgent, or are we making it seem like it's not that big a deal? So even think about that from how you're having conversations about clinical care with your patients, not to scare them to death, but to help them really clearly understand from layman's terms the need that you are diagnosing. So I hope that helps.
Let's see. I think I saw another question come in. Our office requires providing credit card information for patients who we. Hold on. Our office this is. I can't figure it out.
Let's put it this way, and I'm not sure what you're trying to say, but if you have requirements that are a little awkward in terms of what you need from patients, if you're getting pushback. Maybe that's what they're asking. I don't know of a requirement.
There is another question that says, how can we implement that and have patients agree to it? Okay. Meaning to require credit card information for patients.
So if you've made a choice of a certain type of process that is expected, you all need to work on those verbal skills of how you're explaining that and setting that up to patients, whatever it is that you were trying to implement. So an example to me, let's see if this kind of helps you with whatever it was. In COVID, you had to make a lot of changes that weren't usual and customary. And some patients may like them, some didn't, whatever the case may be. But the more upfront we were and professional and positive, we were of explaining the why behind the what, and using that heightened vocabulary and professional communication, the better it was. Because in the end, most patients are unhappy because a miscommunication or a lack of communication has taken place. So if you're stumbling over that, feel free to email me and give me a little bit more clarity. cweber@jamson.com. Or actually, let me go back to, or you can just do the info that might be easier. Let me go back to that contact page. So you can email me and I can see if I can work on that. But remember, you all, you can't over communicate. If you're stumbling over certain conversations again and again and again, that's the pinpoint. Put a pin in that, have a team meeting and help each other figure out how can we do this better. It's not going to fix itself. So you have to practice. You have to refine it, and you have to get more comfortable with it. And if there are things getting in our way with our comfort and getting that effectively communicated in a positive way, we need to support each other to do that better.
All right. Well, if anyone is interested in attending future Henry Schein webinars, such as Carrie's upcoming webinars in the next months, visit henryscheindental.com/webinars for our upcoming schedule. As a thank you for attending today, everyone will receive the recording of this webinar via email, probably by the end of this week. I would like to thank you all for joining. Thank you, Carrie, as always, and we look forward to seeing you back here soon. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.